Sorry.
It is now 6:32 p.m. I will call to order the Fenton Township Board meeting on the 6th day of November, 2023. I ask everyone to please stand for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Gopal, will you please lead?
Yes, sir, thank you. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, your wisdom, and your support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of community. We ask for peace in the warring countries. Bless the sick, the injured, and those who have passed as we pray for an end to the conflicts that exist today. We ask this in your most holy name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As always, thank you, Mark.
Yes,
I appreciate it. Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yeah. Lorraine,
Present.
Reed is absent. Kotrick,
Present.
Krug is present. Kessler is absent. Gopal, and Tucker is absent. You have a quorum.
You got to take a second.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the right word.
All right, I'd like to note for the record that our attorney, Jack Belzer, operations manager, Tom Broker, our fire chief, Ryan Boltz, zoning administrator, Mike Deem, and township assessor, Julia Wilson, are also present. Additionally, the following township officials, are also present virtually via Zoom. Our township engineers, Ellen and Melissa Lawrence. All right. Tom, will you detail the procedures for those attending tonight's virtual meeting?
Yes, to members of the public attending tonight's meeting in person or via Zoom, please be advised this meeting is being recorded to be shown on Public Access TV, Spectrum Channel 191. Recorded meetings are also posted on the Fenton Area Community Television YouTube channel. For those attending via Zoom, we ask that you keep your microphone muted until we reach the portions of the meeting where public comment is allowed. For tonight's meeting, there are no public hearings, therefore all public comment will be taken near the end of the meeting. Meeting materials are available for download on the Township's website at fentontownship.org.
All right, thanks, Tom. All right, moving on to the first business in order was the approval of the agenda. Are there any requests to amend tonight's agenda? Hearing none, a motion is in order to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll move the motion.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. I vote yes. Kotrick,
Yes.
Kessler is absent. Reed is absent. Gopal,
Yes.
Tucker is absent. Lorraine,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, agenda stands approved as presented. The next business order is meeting minutes. Included in the packet are the meeting minutes from the October 17th regular meeting. Are there any corrections or requested revisions to those meeting minutes? Hearing none, the meeting minutes stand approved as presented. Moving on to expenditures. Are there any questions from the board regarding any of the invoices? No questions. A motion is in order to approve the expenditures totaling $321,012.63 for payment.
I'll move the motion.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Reed is absent. Gopal.
Yes.
Tucker is absent. Kessler is absent. Lorraine,
Yes.
I vote yes. Kotrick,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, expenditures stand approved as presented. As Tom said, there's no public hearings this evening. We're going to move on to the next business order, which is reports. Tonight we have the APM Mosquito Control Annual Report. I'm sure we've all reviewed the report in our packet. We have Ben with us tonight from APM. Ben, would you like to come up?
Yes, sir.
Well, good evening, gentlemen. I handed out some talking points here to summarize the reports that was submitted by Chuck Mullins. My name is Ben Segal. I'm now the general manager with APM Mosquito Control. I'm here to talk about the mosquito season and some email exchanges that came up with Tom, particularly in September, sum it up quite nicely, and one way to put it was long and challenging. And I think that gives us a pretty good snapshot of overall. Starting this spring, it was fairly dry. Really light mosquito activity all the way through the end of June and into the middle of July. Fast forward to about the 14th of July, Fenton Township, areas of Fenton City and Linden City received roughly 4 to 5 inches of rain. in one night. I believe it was a Thursday evening. So anytime you get a significant rain event like that, as I'm sure everyone's aware, you will get a hatch of mosquitoes. With a dry spring that we had, a lot of eggs that typically emerge early summer, they were never activated because of how dry the spring was. So we had spring mosquitoes and summer mosquitoes. There's roughly 60 species in the state without getting too into it. They emerge from different environments at different times of the year. But a 5-inch rainfall, you have ditches and flooded yards that will produce adults in as quick as a week. And a lot of your spring sites were loaded with larvae, and those are usually treated in April via aircraft and by ground crews. So long story short, I brought help down from the north and the east office right away. We ordered about 1,600 pounds of BTI, and we treated as much standing water as we could after that initial rain event. It's really important to not get behind the curve. An adult female mosquito can lay 200 to 300 eggs. So if you don't get in front of that initial emergence, you're basically trying to play catch up all summer. And we saw some of what could have been all summer in the month of September. September was nasty as well. August rain events and no significant cool off in September. If I recall, it was 80 degrees all the way until the first 3 days of October. So you have an initial rain event in the middle of the summer and continual rainfalls, your base level of moisture can't absorb any more water. So you have basically standing water and hot temps. You're going to see mosquito activity. The nice thing about this year is we were fully staffed, so we were able to react pretty aggressively. Specifically the July hatch. And the nice thing about mosquitoes, they can be very predictable. When you get a 4-inch rain event, they all go from egg to larvae to pupae to adult. Male mosquitoes will emerge 24 hours before females do. So if you spend enough time in the field, you can monitor and watch them grow. They'll get bigger. Your males will emerge as adults, and that tells you, hey, tomorrow you'll have females, which allows us to coordinate all of our fogging activities. So we monitored that initial hatch, and it was a Sunday night. There were 7 trucks that were in Fenton Township, and we fogged the entire township on one night. From Friday to Sunday, all of Fenton City, all of Linden, and all of Fenton Township was fogged. So there's a point down here, and I'll try to be brief here, but I want it to be known the best way to handle a significant influx of adult mosquitoes is by blanket truck fogging. If you get 6 to 7 guys out in one area or in one region and you light up the entire township, that's the best way to handle a big influx of adults or a large hatch, okay? Included in your guys' contract, there is backpack work, and that's all well and good, and we'll continue to backpack all the homes that call. But a good example is if we have a dozen residents on Autobahn Drive calling, wanting their yards backpacked, the best way to handle a situation like that is to spray the entire block. And because everyone's getting bit. If you go and spray one guy and go 4 houses down and backpack another house, it's really not doing a whole lot. So we'll continue to do that, but the best way to really get a big hatch down is to blanket the entire area. So yeah, we'll get to the numbers here. We had 891 resident calls for the season. 411 of them came in September. So obviously, usually we're winding down in September. Typically after Labor Day, we kind of start our fall shutdown chores, and September was the busiest month the whole season, which is not common. For truck fogging, regular routes began the 22nd of May. The last run for the season was September 29th. We fogged 1,533 miles of roadways throughout the season. And then I mentioned blanket truck fogging. I got to correct myself. The best way to knock down adult mosquitoes is with an airplane. You can spray with an airplane, but that's not included in our agreement here. But yeah, if you guys get a big rain event, our best bet is treat as much water as we can, follow the hatch. As soon as adults emerge, light up the whole region. And that's what we did. Larviciding and barrier work, 810 acres of standing water was treated by Ron Evans, the Evans Aviation, on the 24th of April. 667 acres was treated by ground crews this summer, throughout the spring and summer. 511 homes treated by backpack applications. We're almost done with this mapping project. That's been great. There's a cool software with Esri that allows us to map out all your standing water sites, and you basically can draw them on a map on the desktop, or you go out and walk them and drop points. When we go to treat standing water in the springtime, technicians can go out with a tablet and mark it, whether they've treated it or not, and it'll color in the map red and green. Green will still have to be treated, red has been treated. So that's been cool. It's a good step in a good direction for us. We're almost done with that. There's almost 500 sites, standing water sites in the township. So a lot of initial legwork, but it should help us in the long run here. Yeah, and then the budget deficit, I can't stand here and not make some remarks about it. We were significantly over budget, and that is no one's responsibility but myself. I take full responsibility for that. It's not my goal to do that each season. It's certainly the worst that I have ever overseen. And some comments on that is when we have a fully staffed office, we can respond pretty quickly and pretty aggressively, and we potentially push that a little bit this season as far as the standing water treatment goes and truck fogging goes. But if we continue to see warm Septembers like this, and we trend towards the soggy summers and longer summers, we may want to entertain a contingency plan so that you guys are aware, or maybe we'll come in, Tom, maybe you and I can talk in August or September moving forward, because that it just doesn't sit well with me, and it's not what I aim to do. And you know, my goal is to get your resident service and take out as many mosquitoes as we can. And when we talked in September, they were still really bad. We made the decision to go until October 1st and back down. And you know, we could have went further. We could have went into October. So like I said earlier, a long, challenging season, not typical. I remember 2021 was very ugly, but yeah, I just hope Mother Nature gives us a little reprieve, because like I said in that bullet point, we can only play the hand that we're dealt by Mother Nature. She's the real boss. But yeah, your light trap graph is at the bottom there. You can see a big spike right there at the end of July, and another spike excuse me, early September. But yeah, that's the bulk of what I've got. Any questions from the board or from the residents here?
Are there any questions or comments from the board? Kate?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I didn't see anything about it, so I'm assuming none of the testing was positive for anything?
Not in Fenton Township.
Was that true in like the neighboring areas as well?
Oh, we had a positive in Montrose, I believe,
Okay.
of West Nile. No, overall arbovirus activity was fairly light in this area for the summer, so.
Yeah, that's always good to hear. That's one of the things.
Bay County,
we worry about the most.
Bay County had Jamestown Canyon virus and West Nile, significant numbers there, but I could double check. I'm almost positive we haven't. So.
Yeah, thank you. That's always
Any other
reassuring.
questions or comments?
One thing the board should remember, this was a year where we were over budget. On average, 3 out of every 4 years we're under budget. And even with this 27,000 over budget, cumulative for the last 22 years, we're 132,000 under budget cumulatively. So we're in good shape. We've got a cushion we've got a decent fund balance to handle an unusual year. And then, you know, like Ben says, next year hopefully we'll get a little more favorable weather and stay right there.
Well, Ben, coming from me, you've, how long was it?
Oh, since Ben's dad was in charge in the 80s.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yep.
say, I think you told me in a meeting, one of our morning meetings, but you do a great job.
86, I think.
Phil, you know, I've been in this township over 4 decades, lived on the lake, and this was the first year that I've ever had a problem with a mosquito.
Yep.
So you guys do a great job, and but like you said, Mother Nature does what she wants to do, and all we can do is be prepared. So
We got to react
Yep.
and be proactive. That's important too.
well, you've
but I
done a great
appreciate
job
it.
for the township and probably all the municipalities you work for.
Thanks for your support, gentlemen.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. All right, moving on to the next business orders, communications. We have a proposed 2024 Fenton Township meeting schedule. Presented for board review is the proposed meeting schedule for 2024. Tom, can you go over the recommended changes due to conflicts?
Sure. We're sticking with the first and third Tuesday, 6:30. We do have two definite and potentially a third election day to deal with in 2024 that would directly conflict with the board meeting. That is May, August, and November. What we're proposing to do, since in each case the preceding month has 5 Tuesdays, just back it up a week so there are 3 meetings in April, July, and October. Either way, you end up with a 3-week gap between meetings anyway, so it doesn't really affect too much, but having an election or having a board meeting anywhere near an election date just doesn't work too well. And I forgot to check with Mike if his boards have reviewed it yet, or if they're still to review it.
They'll be fine with it.
Okay. So we're not asking the board to approve it tonight, we're just presenting it tonight. We'll have it on the agenda for approval at the next meeting. So other than those 3 changes, the only other change is the December ZBA is backed up to the 16th to avoid holidays. And there isn't a second planning commission meeting in November and December due to holidays. So other than that, it's pretty much business as usual.
All right, thanks, Tom. Any questions or comments? All right. Just a reminder, the meeting schedule will be on the November 21st agenda for approval. Moving on to the next business orders, adoption of ordinances. This is a proposed zoning ordinance amendment, public access launch sites. This is the introduction and the first reading. We have our zoning administrator, Mike Dean, will review.
One of the action items for the Parks and Rec plan was for a boat launch on Hogan Road, by the bridge. The property is currently owned by Genesee County, right, and the property is zoned ag. Under the current zoning ordinance, we allow public access launch sites in the R4 and R5 zoning districts as a special use permit. So the Planning Commission discussed adding the agricultural zoning district as a special use permit with the similar restrictions. Through the discussion, they also noted that there may be instances where you have an agricultural zone property on a lake where there could be access to a body of water. And depending on what body of water that is, it may or may not be appropriate to have a motorized, or allow motorized watercraft. So the Planning Commission added item E, which is that the Planning Commission reserves the right to limit or prohibit motor or engine size based on analysis of the body of water. Now, Jack brought up some points about that, is that it's vague and doesn't give direction to an applicant. I think it would be helpful to have John provide his feedback on that. And that was sort of his idea to add language like that. The Planning Commission did discuss actually putting limits on motor size, but again, when we were looking at the amendment was not specifically for one property, it was for all properties in the township. And while a boat launch onto the Shiawassee River, all right, it may be more appropriate not to allow motorized watercraft and consistent with the existing uses of the river. Not all there could potentially be an agricultural property on a different lake. I think Byram Lake, the county parks are zoned ag, so theoretically if they wanted to put in a boat launch, that would fall under this also. So again, to bring that back in, why E is on here is that this is affecting all ag R4 and R5 properties that are on a body of water, not just specifically the Hogan Road Bridge property. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was my only concern.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, I was just a little curious, how do we, I guess, so to be a public access point, so how do we intend to enforce, if there's a motor engine prohibition?
So that's a good question.
Right.
part of it would be on a case-by-case basis, right? So you look at the design of the launch itself, right? Is it conducive to allowing full-size boat or motorized boats or not? The launch rules, who's going to be enforcing the launch rules? Because depending on the agency or a group, right, there would be different methods of monitoring that. So specifically, I think that's a site plan issue that would come up for a specific launch and not just a general, you know, answer where in all cases it's going to be done X.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking it could make more sense to restrict the size of the launch, which isn't quite what we said. We kind of really focused on the motor engine size. So I'm not sure if for the language that would help to.
Normally, if you go to Linden,
Yeah.
they kind of have a new kayak launch site, kind of with the same group there. And it's just you're not going to launch anything other than a kayak.
Right, that's
might,
what-
Might have an electric motor on a kayak.
That's what I'm saying, rather than worrying about
Yeah.
what the motors on the boats are, which we won't really, it'll be hard to control or monitor.
But this,
We can worry about what the launch size is, yeah.
yeah, and like you said, this is for all of them, not just
Right.
necessarily this Blue Waterway, so.
Yeah, I mean, if we were writing an ordinance specifically for the river
Yeah,
launch,
no, I
it would be
get
a
it.
lot easier,
I get
right?
it.
So that's how we ended up with this a little more open-ended condition. But I think John can provide some additional feedback, and we can workshop it a little bit more if that's something that the board would like to see.
Thanks, Mike. Any other questions from the board? Comments? I'm gonna still open it up for public comment. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak on this public access launch site? I'll move it on to Zoom. Is there anybody attending via Zoom that would like to address the board regarding the public access launch site ordinance? If so, unmute your mic. Wave a hand. All right. Tom, do we have any written comments at all?
No.
I don't think so. All right, I'll now close the public hearing. If there's no other questions or comments from the board, we have the second reading and vote on the adoption of the proposed ordinance will be conducted at our November 21st meeting. That should give us time, Tom, right, to do what we need to do. Yep. All right. Moving on to the next business order is unfinished business. This is the readoption of resolution number 2023-41 and resolution number 2023-46, street lighting contract, the Glades. Operations Manager Broker, will you explain?
Yes, so on October 3rd, the board had a public hearing, created the Glades 1 Street Lighting Special Assessment District, and adopted it in the second resolution to schedule a public hearing for tonight. Well, due to an oversight on my part, I missed the window to publish that notice. Fortunately, I hadn't mailed out the notice yet either, so the simple solution is to re-adopt that resolution, to reschedule the hearing to November 21st. The notice is actually already on its way to the paper, so I won't miss it this time. And we can have the hearing and confirm the roll on the 21st, which is still before the tax bills go out, so that's not a problem. And then I'm also recommending we go ahead with approving the consumer's energy contract to add the street lights, and a resolution to authorize the supervisor and clerk to execute the contract, just so they can get that on the schedule. It won't happen for several more weeks anyway, but at least it won't slow the process down. The developers have already paid the township the upfront cost for installation that has been billed by Consumers Energy.
All right, thanks, Tom. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, okay. Readoption of resolution number 2023-41. Clerk Krug, will you please present the resolution?
Acknowledges the filing of a special assessment roll with the clerk and its availability for review until the public hearing. Schedules a public hearing on the special assessment roll at the November 21st board meeting. Directs the clerk to publish and mail the notices of hearing according to statute. Repeals any conflicting resolutions. I'll move the resolution.
I'll support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Kotrick,
Yes.
Kessler's absent, Krug votes yes. Gopel?
Yes.
Tucker's absent, Lorraine?
Yes.
Reed is absent, resolution passes.
All right, motion passes. Moving on to a resolution number 2023-46. Clerk Krug, will you please present that resolution?
Yes, thank you. It deems, pardon me, deems it's advisable to authorize Consumer Energy to make changes to the existing streetlights contract to add streetlights in the first phase of the Glades condominium subdivision, authorizes the supervisor clerk to execute the authorization for change on behalf of the township. I will move the resolution.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. I vote yes. Gopal?
Yes.
Lorraine?
Yes.
Reed is absent. Kessler's absent. Tucker's absent. Contract.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next business order is new business. This is the 2025 through 2027 Community Development Block Grant Program. We've all reviewed the memo in our packets. Operations Manager Broke, will you explain?
Yes, so the county has set up their program to start the process 2 years early on these funding cycles. So we need to submit pre-applications. Actually, we just found out today they are extending the pre-application deadline by a couple of weeks. It was December 6th, but I'm still recommending we hold our public needs hearing on November 21st, or our next meeting, and then we may or may not have pre-applications to approve that night. We may be able to push those off till the first December meeting, and then once the pre-applications are submitted and get their tentative approval, we can, because my plan is to submit more pre-applications than what we have funds for. That way we can kind of pick and choose what we want to use the money for, but then we'll have to approve the actual applications probably in January, February timeframe. So for now, I'm just recommending that the board schedule a public needs hearing for the November 21st meeting.
Thanks, Tom. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, I need a motion to schedule a Community Development Block Grant Public Needs Hearing to be held on November 21st, 2023 Township Board meeting.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Gopal?
Yes.
Tucker is absent. Lorraine?
Yes.
Contract?
Yes.
Krug votes yes. Reed and Kessler are absent. Motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next under new business, the award of contract elevator maintenance services. We've all reviewed, again, the memo in our packets. Operations Manager Broker, can you provide additional details?
Yes, the township solicited maintenance proposals for the township elevator. The proposals were all for a 3-year maintenance agreement, which included routine maintenance and state required testing. So they are very apples to apples comparisons. The lowest of the 3 proposals was MEI Total Elevator Solutions, and they've actually helped us out when our current provider, Otis, was unable to a couple of times in the last year. Very good to work with, and the fact that they had the lower bid makes it very easy to recommend that we approve their agreement and put them as our maintenance contractor for the next 3 years.
Thanks, Tom. Any questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing none, I need a motion to approve the 3-year maintenance contract with MEI Total Elevator Solutions as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Kessler's absent. Krug votes yes. Reed is absent. Lorraine?
Yes.
Contract?
Yes.
Tucker's absent. Gopal?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next under new business is property and liability insurance renewal. Again, we've all reviewed the memo in our packet. Operations Manager Broker, will you please provide additional details?
Yes, Fenton Township has had our property and liability insurance through the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority, or MMRMA, for the last 20 years. It is a public entity risk pool that insures more than 400 municipalities in Michigan. So that's all they do is insure municipalities. Obviously, a lot of expertise. Earlier this year, we were approached by a commercial insurance agency asking if they could submit a proposal, so we said certainly, and we got that a couple weeks ago. When I got done with the comparative analysis, the commercial proposal was a little bit cheaper on the premium, about $1,300, but some of their coverages weren't quite as advantageous. And quite honestly, working with MMRMA, they have been outstanding in every aspect of the service they provide. And I, even without the differences in coverages, $1,300 a year, which is about 1.5% of the total, is not enough for me to recommend we change. So it's my recommendation that we renew our policy with MMRMA for another year.
Thanks, Tom. Any questions or comments from the board? No questions or comments?
No.
All right. Okay, I need a motion to approve the renewal of Fenton Township property and liability insurance with the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Tucker's absent, Lorraine.
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Kessler's absent, Reed's absent. Contract,
Yes.
and Krug votes yes, motion passes.
All right, just for the record, I did take and spent considerable time reviewing both proposals also, and I concur with Tom. I was going to wait for the vote, but I just wanted to let everybody know that. All right, next under new business is approval of miscellaneous special assessments 2023 property tax roll. Operations Manager Broker.
Yes, if you recall, we do this every year. We have the kind of the perpetual special assessments that have to be reapproved each year. It's for the private road maintenance and the street lighting. It's about 100 or so total special assessments. They're reviewed every year and adjusted based on actual and projected costs. The list also includes our operating millage, which the board has already approved, and the fire, solid waste, and mosquito control, which have already been approved, but just there for reference. But I would recommend approval of these so that they'll be on the tax roll for 2023, and about this time next year we'll do it again.
Thanks, Tom. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve special assessments for the 2023 winter property tax roll as presented.
So moved.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Lorraine,
Yes.
Contract,
Yes.
Kessler's absent, Gopel.
Yes.
Tucker's absent, Reed's absent, Krug votes yes, motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next under new business, the schedule of public hearing for the 2024 Fenton Township budget. We reviewed the memo in our packet. Operations Manager Broker, will you explain?
Yes, so there's a preliminary public hearing draft of the 2024 budget in the board packet. I'm requesting that the board schedule a public hearing on the budget for our November 21st meeting. I don't know if there's any questions on the budget. We can certainly address them now or at the hearing, but it's kind of a continuation of what we're doing. Anything that's proposed to be significantly different from the 23 projected, there are explanations for those. So at this point, I'm just requesting scheduling of the hearing so we can post it, but if you have questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those as well.
Thanks, Tom. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Again, I have reviewed the budget, and Tom did a great job with the narrative, if there was anything that thought would be a question, so. All right, no questions or comments? We'll move. I need a motion to schedule a public hearing on the 2024 Fenton Township budget to be held at their November 21st, 2023 Fenton Township Board meeting.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Kessler's absent, Gopel.
Yes.
Krug votes yes, Lorraine.
Yes.
Tucker's absent, Contract,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, thanks, Bob. Next under new business is resolution number 2023-47, designation of early voting site. We reviewed the memo. Operations manager, broker, or clerk Krug, do you want to go over that? Or?
Well, it's just, it's a motion or a resolution to establish the township hall as early voting. We're going to conduct it here, even though we won't have it till next year.
Okay.
The only area that's having it right now was Grand Blanc
Okay.
as a test run, but
That's right.
it just publicly acknowledges that we will be early voting in Fenton Township.
Were the hours set by us or the state or?
Well, each community
ahead.
can set their own. The county clerk has asked all the communities in Genesee County to adopt this particular schedule
Okay.
for continuity. I don't know if everyone's going to, but I felt it was reasonable. To kind of add on to what Bob said, the election law requires the local governing board to formally establish the early voting site and the hours 60 days prior to the election. So we're a little early, but not a lot. February 27th, if it sticks with February 27th, is the next election date. So we're only less than a month away from being 60 days away, so.
Good question.
That all makes sense to me. I saw it's 9 to 5, all the days except the Wednesday, which will be 12 to 8 p.m. And I was wondering how do we pick which one, you know?
Yeah,
Well, we picked
But we just followed the county.
the
Yeah,
county
the
recommended
county
one day, and then that one seemed to make the most sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that,
Easier for people to know it's going.
that gets the people that can't get here
Yeah,
prior to 5 and then.
yeah, it made sense there'd be one. I just was
Because
curious.
we will have to send a notice to every voter address, not every voter individually, but every voter address with the location and the hours. Now, it'll be a kind of a generic notice, it won't have the specific dates, but it'll explain, it's these days before the election, and these are the hours, and that notice will cover us for all 3 elections, as long as we don't change the location or the hours.
Okay.
Because that in itself will be kind of an expensive mailing.
Tom, just for clarification, are we being reimbursed from the state for all costs associated with early voting?
Most costs, I would say yes, not all costs, but pretty close.
How close?
If we don't pay any more than $15 an hour, then they will cover all of the staffing costs. They're providing the additional equipment we need. We already don't pay for ballots or anything like that. So staffing is the big thing, because we're not having to use other sites, we're not having to do anything other than start at 9, end at 5, close it down till the next day. So there's, you
The
know,
mailing cost?
the mailing cost, I believe they are reimbursing for that as well.
Okay.
I have to double check that one.
There's still lots of questions about what we're gonna do, how we do it.
Well, you
We
put
do
something on
have
the
people
ballot.
that have already said they would work the early voting. Some of them only wanna work 1 day, some want 3 days, so it's,
All right.
Do we know how many people Grand Blanc had?
I've not heard a report yet.
Okay.
I'm interested because their deputy clerk is really good, and I know she'll have lots of insights and recommendations based on what they found.
Our office hours are a little different than this one, right?
Our office hours?
Yeah.
We open at 8.
No, but I mean like the Wednesday, 12 to 8
Yeah,
p.m.
we'll have
I'm
to-
just saying, we're just gonna
Oh.
have to keep somebody, or maybe 2 people here till 8.
Right, well, most likely it'll be our election coordinator and myself. But yeah, we have to have the clerk's office open while the early voting is going on, so, yeah, we'll manage that.
and this was important during our discussion about having it here, because with the safe we have and the locks and everything, we felt that we would be able to guarantee the security of the ballots.
And just to remind the board, we have Tom and I have looked into the camera situation here at the, We actually have a camera that sits out even by the box, people that bring up their ballots, so I feel our township is secure and safe and monitored at all times.
Far enough away that we're not seeing what they're putting.
Well, the cameras aren't pointed in the room where the
No,
voting
no, no,
is.
no.
Just, you don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just on he's talking about the outside ballot.
Outside ballot box.
Outside ballot
I
box.
wasn't talking about this.
Well, this one says, yeah, for the absentee,
Yeah.
but this one, so we're not talking about cameras in the.
Oh, no.
No.
No, I'm sorry, I should have.
Can't have them,
Okay.
other than in the
That's why
lobby.
I asked, Bob.
It's in the lobby
Good
too.
question.
All right, any other questions or comments from the board? All right, resolution number 2023-47. Clerk Crew, will you please present the
Yes.
resolution?
Establishes the Fenton Township Civic Community Center as an early voting site for Fenton Township. Establishes early voting hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for each of the 9 days. Early voting, except Wednesday, which will be from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Directs the clerk to post the early voting location, dates and times at least 45 days prior to every statewide or federal election. I'll move the resolution.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
Kessler's absent, I vote yes. Gopel?
Yes.
Reed is absent, Lorraine?
Yes.
Tucker is absent, Patrick?
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, moving on, the next business order is board comment. Is there anyone on the board who has additional comments or concerns? All right, we'll move on to the next business order, which is public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. I will now open up the meeting for public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. First, is there anyone attending tonight's meeting that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items? Yes, come on up. If you don't mind, just come to the mic and state your name.
Carolyn Nance. I couldn't hear 100%, and I just want a little bit more explanation on this early voting and the extra costs and how they're getting covered. I'm just curious.
Well, the state is going to reimburse locals for the cost of operating the early voting. So they're providing additional equipment at their cost, and they will reimburse what we pay the workers up to a certain dollar amount. If we want to pay more than what they'll reimburse, then that would come out of our budget.
Okay, so the state, so ultimately still our taxes.
Yes.
We're still paying
Yeah.
for it.
We're still paying for it.
State taxes versus local.
It's our budget or their budget, but it's all our money, right?
And one thing to remember, if, let's say, Lake Fenton Schools wanted a bond issue, there wouldn't be early voting on that. It's only statewide and federal elections. So if the bond issue, it would come to the school on the, Tuesday of whatever, tomorrow. So,
But
So-
if that happens during the general also,
Yeah, if a proposal like that is on one of the big elections, then yes, of course.
so that's
But-
more confusion.
So we're talking August and November of even years are the only elections you're going to, and the presidential primary every 4 years, are the only elections you'll see early voting.
should only be 3, hopefully.
But remember, this was a ballot initiative.
I
so we
know,
voted for
but
it.
I don't think people knew they were gonna be paying, they didn't think.
We're paying
Great
for it
question.
any way you look at it.
Right.
Thank you very much, Carolyn. It's a good question. Is there anybody else that's here? Yes, sir. If you can come up, just give us your name.
Thanks, Dave Nance. You guys had mentioned the camera that would be on the outside. I assume that's a drop box for early voting. What's the intent of that camera on how will it be utilized?
It's a state requirement that any absentee ballot drop boxes have to have a video surveillance.
It's not for early voting, it's for the absentee ballots.
Right.
Okay.
You saw the box sitting outside, you
Yeah.
just drive up and drop a
Yeah, I
ballot
saw
in.
it for I saw
Yeah,
it in the
we
last
have a
election
camera
too.
pointed at that. So if someone wants to claim that, hey, they saw somebody dump a whole truckload of ballots in there, we can go look at the video and see what
Yeah.
happened.
So it's not actively or automatically monitored, it would have to be somebody saying, hey, could you please check this out?
Well, it's
or-
recorded and we retain about 30 days worth. So we don't, do we actually go out and look at it on proactively? No, not unless we get a concern.
So if nobody asks, it may not be reviewed at all then, the tapes?
That's possible, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, just wanted to see, curious how that operated. Thank you.
no problem. Is there anybody else attending tonight's meeting? Yes, sir, come on up.
My name is Bill Vaught, and I came up to just question on the audio in this particular section of the building. A lot of your comments, Mr. Lorraine, your comments are very good speaking voice. Way back, we can hear that. But some, you need a little amplification. Now, I don't know if you could have either a microphone in front of you or whatever, okay? And so for some reason, it's just not getting back to the back row. And that's basically all I had to say, especially for those people that have hearing difficulties.
Well, I
Okay.
apologize for that. We do have a technician that's here, and we usually check the system before each meeting, and he's still here, correct? Is
Yeah,
he?
we'll have them
we'll check.
rerun some tests on the microphones. and-
We will do that, sir. We'll,
Thank you.
Bill, thanks a lot for bringing it to our attention.
We can always speak louder too.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, sometimes I sit back too, so pull your mic closer, I guess. Is there anybody else that's attending the meeting this evening that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items? Hearing none, I will move to those that are attending the meeting virtually. Is there anyone that's attending the meeting virtually tonight that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items?
Don says no, thank you.
All right. How about you, Mark? L, if so, you're muted. All right, I'll take that as a no. It is now 7:18 p.m. If there's nothing else, I say good night and the meeting is adjourned.
Good job.